Namaskar and a very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 9th edition of India Smart Utility Week 2023, an international conference and exhibition on smart energy and smart mobility brought to you by India Smart Grid Forum. We are very pleased to welcome you to our inaugural ceremony of ISUW 2023. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on to commence the formal proceedings of the inaugural sessions. We have a galaxy of very distinguished experts who have joined us for this inaugural session. And I would like to request all of you to join me in extending a very warm welcome to them. We have with us Mr. N. Venu, Managing Director and CEO of Hitachi Energy. While I take the names, I request everyone to please applaud Mr. Praveer Sinha, MD and CEO of Tata Power Company Limited, Mr. Richard Skomberg, President, RJ Synergy, EDF Fellow and IEC Ambassador for Smart Energy, Mr. Eddie Widiono, former President, PTPL in Indonesia, and also the founder chairman of PGCI, the Smart Grid Association in Indonesia, Mr. Abel Tella, Director General, Association of Power Utilities of Africa, Mr. Helvio Neves Guerra, Director, Brazilian Electricity Regulatory Agency, Mr. Robert Denda, Global CEO, Grid Parties, Mr. Luciano Martini, Chair, Executive Committee, ISCAN. And we're very pleased to have with us Mr. Reggie Kumar Pillai, President, ISGF and Chairman of Global Smart Energy Federation, the man behind this immensely popular and successful program. Ms. Reena Suri, Executive Director of ISGF, also here with us. So a very special and warm welcome to all of you who have joined us today. They say, what is a soul? A soul is like electricity. We don't really know what it is, but it's here and can light up a room and light up many lives. But for now, we would like to invoke that divine force for blessings of light by lighting the ceremonial lamp. So may I please request our distinguished dignitaries for this inaugural ceremony to please join us on stage to light the traditional ceremonial lamp. It is customary in the Indian tradition to light a ceremonial lamp to partake the divine blessings for new and auspicious beginnings. Thank you, dignitaries, for the lighting of the lamp, and now for a group photograph. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now play a video on the journey of ISGF over the last 10 years. So let's have a video, please.
Established in 2011 by Ministry of Power as a not-for-profit society, India Smart Grid Forum is spearheading the mission to accelerate electric grid modernization and energy transition in India. It has evolved as a think tank of global repute on smart energy, electric mobility and energy transition, with 150 plus members comprising of ministries, utilities, technology providers, academia and research. ISGF has been recognized as a thought leader in the domain of energy transition. Some of the important contributions are Smart Grid Vision and Roadmap for India, issued by Ministry of Power in 2013, which laid the foundation for electric grid modernization in the country. Our white paper in 2014 and study report in 2017 suggested green number plates for electric vehicles. Energy Storage Roadmap for India, issued in 2019, paved the way for large investments in energy storage systems. Roadmap for machine-to-machine communications and rollout of IPv6 for power sector. Our presentation to Forum of Regulators in 2016 led to creation of separate electricity tariff for electric vehicle charging. Presently, 23 states have special tariffs for EV charging. Business model for smart metering as a service proposed by us in 2017 white paper is adopted by Government of India for the RDSS program. Our report 2018 argued for 20% of the parking space in new buildings to be built with EV charging points, and Town and Country Planning Organization under Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs adopted in 2019. Our 2017 report suggested sale of electric 2- and 3-wheelers without batteries, and charged batteries may be rented from battery leasing agencies. ISGF has been constantly advocating for allotment of license-free spectrum to power sector and other critical infrastructure sectors for private communication networks for captive use. The white paper on district cooling systems created a technical committee for adoption and implementation of district cooling systems in India under Bureau of Energy Efficiency and drafted the guidelines for DCS. Government of India has approved private 5G networks in June 2022. The white paper on electric cooking has led to adoption of electric cooking in the Go Electric program led by Bureau of Energy Efficiency in 2021. ISGF, as a part of the capacity building mission for the sector, works with various stakeholders around the world to create knowledge sharing platforms and conducts specialized training programs since 2013. More than 35,000 professionals have participated in ISGF's various programs in the past 10 years. In recognition of ISGF's pioneering role, the ISGAN Awards of Excellence by International Smart Grid Action Network for Workforce Development for Inclusive Energy Transition was awarded to ISGF in 2022. ISGF created very popular knowledge dissemination platforms. The India Smart Grid Knowledge Portal, launched in January 2013, is one of the most popular websites with several thousand unique visitors every month. ISGF's monthly Smart Grid Bulletin, launched in January 2014, has over 90,000 subscribers from 110 plus countries. Our flagship event, the India Smart Utility Week, is considered as one of the top 5 international conferences and exhibitions on smart grids and smart cities. The event is attended by thousands of participants from 60 plus countries. Its thematic sessions, special plenaries, bilateral workshops, masterclasses bring out new ideas and foster innovations. Next edition of ISUW will be held in New Delhi from 1st March to 4th March 2023. The Distribution Utility Meet is a unified voice of the DISCOM community to influence policymakers and regulators for grid modernization. It is conducted since 2017 and in 2022, it is held on 17th and 18th November 2022 in Bhubaneswar. Since 2015, ISGF have been conducting bilateral workshops with European Commission, USA, Sweden, Germany, France, which set the agenda for energy cooperation between India and these nations. ISGF has been taking delegations of senior officials from ministries, utilities and regulatory commissions to international conferences and exhibitions, which has been given valuable exposure to new ideas and emerging technologies relevant for the power sector in India. Some of our international partners. Our new focus area centers on Grid Integrated Vehicles, GIV, in partnership with University of Delaware, USA. Wireless Transmission of Electricity, in partnership with Embrod. Interconnection of regional grids in Asia. New architecture for the 21st century electric grid. Grid interactive buildings. Peer-to-peer trading of green electricity on blockchain platform. 3 demonstration projects executed in India successfully. ISGF, with its contribution, has been a torchbearer of the power sector in India and overseas.
So I'd like to now, with these words, invite Mr. Regikumar Pillai, the President of ISGF and Chairman of the Global Smart Energy Federation, requesting him to kindly deliver the welcome address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to stand before a room full of people after 3 years. With grace of God, we all could assemble again for this event. 6.8 million people have perished during the pandemic in last 3 years. We can't thank God enough for keeping us alive. And a very warm welcome to all of you for the 9th edition of India Smart Utility Week. From the video which you have seen, most of you work with us very closely, but nobody knows that end-to-end what all we do. Maybe the video had given a glimpse of the range of activities which we do, and with this we could do with the support of our members. Basically, as a secretariat, we are only 10-12 people, but otherwise our members are very big organizations like the utilities, the big industry companies, academic institutions and all that. So we are sitting on their shoulder. That's why we could achieve all that with their, and also our international partners and our supporting organizations. So many people, because our team send a lot of mailers about these events which we do, they think that we are an event management company. So just given a glimpse that we do something besides event as well. Many of our white papers and many of the technical reports and studies have actually resulted in policies and regulations that led to the energy transition momentum in the country. As you all know, we are the only major economy in the world which has already met the commitment under Paris Agreement for 2030, 8 years in advance. That is 40% of non-fossil fuel-based power generation. So this we achieved already in 2022. And now we have set a new target of 500 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030. And as you all know, we operate the third largest power system in the world. The whole Indian subcontinent operates in one frequency, one grid, and more than 300 million electricity customers, which is not there in any other part of the world. And this grid is growing also at 8 to 10% per year in capacity, as well as in number of new customers added to it. So such complex grid doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. I'm not bragging, but those who work, they know it. And we are operating it also quite successfully, stably. And today by capacity, as I said, almost 40% of the power generation capacity comes from non-fossil fuels, mostly solar, wind, and some hydro. And another number which most of you often forget is that our per capita power consumption is 1/3 of the global average. As economically we develop, we need to increase power generation capacity, power consumption. So this grid of 410 gigawatt is expected to double to 800 and further double to more than double to 800 plus gigawatt by 2030 and again double by 2040. It's going to be one of the largest, of course, after China by 2040. And at the same time, we are trying to pull people out of poverty by giving more energy and other economic development. So more power generation, and existing power generation today maybe 60-70% by energy comes from fossil fuels, which we need to change it to clean power. So growing the grid, meeting the energy needs of the entire population. As you know, last week we have overtaken China. We are the most populous country in the world today. Last week we have achieved that target. So giving clean, reliable 24/7 electricity to over 1.5 billion people, and at the same time transitioning to clean energy systems is a much bigger challenge than any other country faces in the world. And there are many lessons which India has learned in the last 10-15 years, which are equally relevant in other developing countries. So in the next 3 days, this time, the main theme is all about net zero. India also has made a declaration in the last COP that we will be net zero by 2070. If a country has to be net zero by 2070, the power system has to be net zero at least 10, 15 years or 20 years before that. Because the main strategy for decarbonization is electrification. Electrification of almost all human activities and decarbonize the power sector. So it is extremely important for power sector to be decarbonized by 2047. That's a number which we are saying. That's the 100th year of our independence. In 1947, when India became independent, there was only 1,360 megawatt for almost a population of 400 million people. We had only 1.3 gigawatt of electricity generation capacity. Most of India lived in darkness. And from that, in that last 75 years, we have come to third largest power system, which is 410 gigawatt in capacity, 1.3 gigawatt to 410 gigawatt. And this is a major achievement which you have done. And the people who are sitting in the audience today have contributed for this major development which you have achieved, both from the government, from the utilities, from the industry. So the theme, as I said, this time we are focusing more on the net zero power systems and the architecture for the net zero power systems, the regulation for the net zero power systems. So everything is the ISUW 2023, most of the sessions, plenaries, everything is designed on net zero. How do we achieve that? So in next 3 days, you will have opportunity to participate in several parallel sessions on different topics. As we said, from district cooling systems to private 5G networks to a range of and advanced technologies. Yesterday, we conducted master classes. That is tutorials basically. So one of the topic on which we have conducted master classes yesterday was on transformer models and generative AI tools. It's the transformer I mentioned is the large language model transformers, not our power transformers. So transformer models and generative AI tools, we've been able to get some of it. It's a first of its kind program anywhere done in the world. Nobody has conducted. So there are several tools which are there: audio to text, text to audio, audio to video, video to text. Like that, there are some 24 tools which are popular today. All these have been introduced in last 12 to 18 months. 2 years ago, none of this were there. As you all know that GPT-3 was introduced in June 2020 and it was made to public in October or November 2020. But ChatGPT, which came only in November 2022, not even 6 months, that has taken the world by storm and everybody using it. And many of the text which you can find in many documents are written by ChatGPT. It does a better job than I can today write in any complex engineering subject. So this has been, and along with that, earlier when we used to conduct meeting, it used to take several days for us to write the minutes. When I do the Global Smart Energy Federation meeting, monthly board meeting, I have people from Africa to Japan to Korea to Indonesia to Europe and America. So my colleagues who take down the minutes, they read the recording several times to do that. Today we use some audio to text tool. The meeting is over, within 5 minutes I have the minutes. We have to edit it, maybe 15 minutes job to edit it. These were not there even 6 months before. And I often say that the death of language is imminent and very nearby. I call on phone to somebody, I talk to Richard in Hindi, he can listen in French. He can choose that. Today's technology support that. It's only a question of commercializing and launching it. You can choose the language you can listen to on a phone conversation, which is already, and this level of invention, which was not there in the past. That's one of the good thing which has happened during the pandemic. Pandemic changed many things, and this is one of them. And I often say that our utilities has all gone paperless. Earlier, to get a electricity connection, we had to fill up paper application and sign it 10 places. Within 1 month of the pandemic, it all became email. Same with most of the government and other city government utility processes. Citizen interface with other authorities has become digital. So you will see a lot more innovation happening at a faster pace in the coming days. And that is exactly what we try to capture in the themes of ISUW 2023. So with this, let me extend a very warm welcome to the distinguished dignitaries who will be making the opening keynotes today. And starting with Mr. Venu, from 2015, you've been with us, and thank you very much for your support. Last 2 editions were virtual, still you are with us. And to Mr. Pravir Sinha, sir, without your support, you would not have been anywhere. And so does Richard Schomburg. Every edition he came from Paris, except the last 2, which was virtual. Very warm welcome to all of you. And our friend from Indonesia, Eddie, where are you? I don't see you in the front row. Oh, okay. So he was the longest serving president of PTPLN. When I say PTPLN, many of you know from the power sector, but otherwise it's the second largest utility in the world with about 80 million customers and about 70,000 megawatt of generation capacity across 600 islands in Indonesia. So after SGCC, China, PTPLN is the second largest electric utility, vertically integrated. Eddie was president of that for 12 years, and he also set up a smart grid association in Indonesia, which is called PJCI. So, warm welcome to you and your colleagues who have come from Indonesia, from PLN and other places. And another friend of us from the Arab world, due to some last-minute logistics, he will arrive only tomorrow. Mohammed Al Thani, who is the Secretary General of Arab Renewable Energy Commission. It's headquartered in Jordan, but presidency changes every year to a energy minister in different countries in North Africa and the Middle East area. We are honored to have Mr. Abel Tella, Director General of Association of Power Utilities of Africa, which is an intergovernmental organization of 56 utilities from 46 countries in Africa, and it's also 52 years old. As GSCF, we have a MOU and with APUA, and honored to have you and your colleagues, Mr. Tella, warm welcome to you. We are also honored to have a delegation from Latin America this time, Mr. Gura from the Brazilian Electricity Regulatory Agency, Anil, and his colleagues. Very warm welcome to you, sir. Another very close supporter of us and a board member of ISGF, Devi Sidabadi, he is still in the plane. That's the vagaries of the weather. He spent in Toronto airport more than 12 hours, and finally his flight was cancelled, and last night he got another plane, and he'll be landing around 12:30 in Delhi. So we'll miss him at the inaugural ceremony. And I have the honor of working very closely with Luciano Martini, the Executive Committee Chair of ISGAN, International Smart Grid Action Network. And ISGAN have a ISGAN Award of Excellence for Best Smart Grid Project. And I have the honor of chairing that jury panel for the last 5 years. That's not the jury which gave the award to us. That's a different award. That is for workforce development. That was an entirely different jury. This one is for the Smart Grid Project. So this year, again, we will be doing sometime a month down the line. And the theme this year is on artificial intelligence in smart grid. The previous year, it was grid integrated vehicles. And we have some government dignitaries who have been invited for today's function. They are all extremely busy with the G20, which is happening parallelly. Some power ministers and foreign ministers meetings of G20 nations happening. So they could not come, including our minister. So they have been a constant supporter of us. We extend our compliments and greetings to them. And we hope in the 3 days they will stop by at some point in time, and look forward to exciting 3 days of deliberations, and to all of you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pillai, for your extremely warm welcome address and giving us an insight into the conference and also the dedicated efforts of ISGF. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the keynote addresses, and I'd like to firstly invite Mr. N. Venu, Managing Director and CEO of Hitachi Energy, and he will be talking to us about the decarbonization initiatives within Hitachi.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's again a great pleasure to be here physically, and we have been working together with ISGF, as Raji said, since its inception. It's a great pleasure to see that ISGF has grown in leaps and bounds, and look at the end-to-end various emerging technologies, not only the core technologies. They have been working in many of those emerging technologies, and great to see that. So, in the last, especially in the post-pandemic, we have seen how things started adapting, and how the agility has come into everybody's life, whether it is organization or the country, organization or the individuals in that. And following the pandemic, policymakers, industry, general public, societies, all those things have sharpened their focus on the environment. I think the environment has a huge change in our generations, not only our generations, but the generations to come in that. And climate targets have been set across all the levels, starting from the countries and from the organizations, and also individual levels. And ambition level also has set very high. For example, India has committed, India with a population of 1.4 billion, they committed that by 2070 we want to be carbon neutral as a country as a whole. And not only 2070, but they have a huge intermediate targets. By 2030, we want to be, as a country, 500 gigawatt of renewable, and 50% of energy required as a country met through renewable things. So these are the huge amount of targets, very ambitious targets. There are many other targets to do that. So as a company, Hitachi Energy, where we bring our technology, be it a product, system, services, and software, where using our technology, we enable carbon neutral operations of our customers and thus our society in that. So we also set ourselves a very strong and ambitious target in this climate conscious as a company, that by 2030, we want to be carbon neutral in our own operations globally. We operate more than 90 countries, more than 40,000 employees, and that's where we set in that. So we have a very clear and crucial purpose to advance a sustainable energy future for all. And under Sustainability 2030, our strategic plan for sustainability, and we summarize the main commitments to act and other businesses and drive businesses in a sustainable way. So basically what we have is that we work around 4 pillars, that is planet, people, peace, and partnership. Our strategy draws from the UN Sustainability Development Goals, where each pillar has a corresponding targets that drive our businesses to contribute social value, economic value, and environmental value in that. And our aim, as I told you, that we want to be a carbon neutral by 2030 and reduce, this is not only that, reduce 50% of our emissions along the value chain by 2030 again. So this has triggered our switch to 100% fossil-free electricity in all our facilities around the world, and we have achieved this ahead of our own target. By 2021, we already reached this target globally. All our factories around the world is powered through fossil-free electricity, including the 19 factories what we have in India, which is also been powered through fossil-free electricity in that. And in addition to that, we also do a lot of projects for our customers, and we do a lot of construction power. You know, many times construction power, most of the organizations and agencies do use diesel generator sets in countries like India and Bangladesh, etc. In that. So whereas as a company, we have developed a very modular, scalable, plug-and-play nanogrid for our project site, where we use our containerized office. On top of that, we set up a solar plant with a battery, and that can be used as a construction power in some of our sites. And this is how we are contributing step by step in ensuring that the sustainability is center of our strategy and core of our pillar in that. As the fossil-free electricity increasingly constitutes a greater part of energy supply, the power system will rely on three key technologies. The one is the sustainable products and services, the products and solutions. And the second one is the power electronics. And the third one is the digital technology and services to transfer clean, intermittent bulk power. And we are extending our expertise to help customers on their green transitions with innovative solutions. Let me just give 3 examples on that. As you know, most of you use the switchgear, most of you use our technology, and this technology is most of the technology used, for example, switchgear SF6 gas, right, which is not good for the environment. So as Hitachi Energy came out with the Iconic, which is an alternative to SF6 gas, and Hitachi Energy's eco-efficient portfolio of products, solutions, and services, which are scientifically proven to deliver an exceptional environment performance. So in the recent concluded SIGRE in Paris, we have launched a 420 kV gas-insulated switchgear, which is SF6 free. So the second example is HVDC light. You all know that HVDC is a technology used for a bulk transfer of power, is a highly efficient alternative to alternating current AC for transmitting a large amounts of power. Recently, we have commissioned for our customer PGCIL Raigad to Pugalur over a distance of 1,800 kilometers, 6,000 megawatt of power transmitting through our technology in that. So these HVDC technologies with the lower electric losses, lower footprint, and these are the technologies where we believe that more and more will be used as part of the more on the transmission. As you know, government has announced the 2030 transmission plan, and we see more of these projects coming in to help and make sure that the grid is more safe, reliable, and efficient, and as well as in the green standpoint in that. So similarly, another example is the oceanic is another example for offshore wind, where we can bring the offshore wind power to the shore in that. And we believe that electricity will be the backbone of our sustainable energy future. And most important role is to ensure that we have a modern energy system that is fit for the future, not only for the present but also future, because the changes are happening at a rapid scale and a rapid speed. And the technology, whatever is going now, it should also serve the present, but also it should be fit for the future in that. The long-term view requires partnerships, co-creation, co-collaborations to implement a more holistic approach with a dynamic engagement and eyes on the broader picture rather than in a silo approach in that. We at Hitachi Energy, we are pushing for a greater diversity, and we are partnering with academia to nurture future technology, pioneers and net zero entrepreneurs. To deeply entrench decarbonization in our operations in the times to come, we have designed a curriculum to one of the institutions where we partnered with them on the smart electric grid and running cutting-edge labs focusing on the green energy transition and digitalization at a leading engineering colleges in the country in that. So we believe that the changes are not an incremental growth, it is happening in the multiple X times, and that needs also upskilling and creating the more of talent pools in the country, and that's exactly Hitachi Energy is doing in that. And India is one of the world's most rapidly growing large economies. As Reggie talked about his inaugural thing, we already become the largest populous country, 1.4 billion. We are the 5th largest economy in the world, and ready to overtake in the next couple of quarters and come to the 4th largest economy. And similarly, we are the 3rd largest renewable energy. So there are so many things happening. The pace of growth is unbelievable. What we are seeing in the last 10 years or so is unbelievable. And to keep up that pace, and we need to work together as organizations, work together the industry, and work together all the partners in working together. The solutions and collaboration approach is what we required in that. The effort needs collaboration and commitment from stakeholders, including government, industries, academia, and the institutions like ISGF, and bringing all the stakeholders together and deliberating on that, what works well for our country, what works for the rest of the world in that. And there are a lot of things, innovation is happening. One example, what he has talked about, the chart GPT is the one example, and many things are happening in our own industry, what we are seeing in that. So the new technologies deployment at a scale and the speed to take care of this transition is extremely important, and this is the responsibility of all the stakeholders, starting from the government, the regulators, the utilities, and the technology OEMs like us, and need to have the partners in that. And finally, in order to achieve the carbon neutral future, as I said, we have to have a sustainable collaboration across all industries, universities, academia, stakeholders, and we believe that that is the best way to taking together in advancing the sustainable energy future for all. So Hitachi Energy, we are in the center of the energy transition. We're very happy with work with our customers, our partners in advancing the sustainable energy future for all. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again, and I really look forward to the great collaborations in the next 3 days in time. Thank you.
Sincere apologies, I missed welcoming one distinguished guest of us, Mr. Robert Denda, Global CEO of Gridspertise Italy, which is wholly owned subsidiary of Enel. As most of you know, Enel pioneered smart grid initiatives at the turn of the century. 22 years ago, started with smart metering. They are the first one who completed more than 35 million smart meters. They operate utilities around the world. And many of the successfully implemented smart grid technologies, now they are ready to offer to other utilities, for which they have last year made a fully owned subsidiary company, Gridspatis. We are honored to have Mr. Robert Denda, Global CEO of Gridspatis, here with us. Thank you very much, and apologies, I'm getting old.
I would like to now invite Mr. Praveer Sinha, MD and CEO of Tata Power Company Limited, and requesting him to kindly talk to us about the decarbonization initiatives within the Tata Group.
Good morning, everyone. Such a pleasure to be back in the ISGF physical round. The last time we had the physical meeting was in 2020. I remember it was, I think, around 5th of March. I was here. The COVID has just started. We were wearing masks, but I think we've come a long way since then. Thank you to ISGF for hosting this meeting. Thank you to my young friend Reggie. He's not getting older. He's actually getting much younger, and the way he keeps on pushing us to make this event where we get everyone together. We have technology partners from industry, we have utilities, we have regulators, and we have people from academia and from the government. So I think it's a great platform which has been created, and a big round of applause for ISGF. It's been nearly 1 decade that this whole movement of smart grid started in the country. I remember the first time I heard about smart grid was sometime in 2012, and I said, what is it going to do? And we started learning about it, that what it means to become a smart grid in terms of the automation that is required, the supervisory control, the GIS, the smart metering. And then when we got into smart metering, we found that it's more than metering, it's about the communication system and what sort of communication we should have, whether it is the PLC communication or the RF and things like that. So from electricity, we started learning about communication, and I think phenomenal amount of integration has happened in the journey of smart grid. And today, everyone in the country is talking about smart metering and the whole amount of analytics that will come and the intelligence that will come in this smart metering. And I think the ambitious target that the country has to change all meters into smart meters, including making them prepaid and in rural areas. So we are talking of something like 300 million smart meters, which is a humongous number. Of course, the government ambitious plan is to do it in 2 to 3 years, but I don't think physically it would be possible to manufacture that many meters and physically to go and implement it. Tata Power as a utility, we were the first one to start implementing smart meters in Delhi. The standards were not there, the testing protocol was not there, the communication protocol was not there, and over a period of time, all these things have happened, and it is now getting implemented in various parts of the country. And we ourselves, Tata Power has implemented in Delhi, in Mumbai, and we are now implementing it in Odisha. And I think the paradigm shift that is happening and the opportunity that is happening is phenomenal, because it gives the customer an insight into how they can consume electricity, how they can monitor the usage of energy, and how they can do the energy conservation, as also to the utilities in terms of various operational benefits that they can get if they can manage the consumption of electricity. So from just a supply side, we are today talking about the load side, from the consumer side, and how you can manage that, and some of the new solutions, especially in terms of the demand response, in terms of how do we do the peer-to-peer trading, the blockchain and things like that, is becoming a reality. And I think it's a phenomenal amount of work that is happening in the country and outside the country. And I think the platforms like this gives us an opportunity to get the best brains globally, best companies globally, to come and talk to us and share that what can be done, how it can be customized in the Indian context, and what are the learnings so that we can implement it much faster. But I think from this smart grid, there's also the other perspective that we are seeing. And the grid itself is becoming very different than what it used to be there. We had a grid where there was unidirectional flow of power. We had generators and we had transmission companies, and then you had the distribution, and it was one single directional flow. What has changed in the grid now is that you have multiple suppliers of electricity. Rooftop solar is becoming a norm. And then, along with that, various other things have come. We heard Reggie talk about that how do we do the vehicle management. Electric vehicle will become a reality, and it will grow exponentially if our automobile companies really move fast. I think there's a great opportunity to electrify the whole mobility landscape, whether it is personal mobility or it is the public transportation. And I think that will again make the grid very, very complex, and it has to be ready for a real-time management of the grid. But for doing many of these things, it's very important that there are three areas that we need to work very closely. First is that while the renewable energy is a reality and is growing very fast, it is also a fact that it is still intermittent. How do we make it more reliable? How do we make it 24/7 availability of this electricity? How do we ensure that you will get this under all types of weather conditions and not when it is not a sunny day or when the wind is not blowing? How do we integrate that? Now, whether we integrate it with the batteries or with hydrogen or pump storage, those are technologies that we need to work very quickly. Many of the technologies on batteries in last 10 years, many of the chemistries in battery are still not at a stage where we can really commercialize it and scale it up. Many of these technologies are still in development stage. They are in the technology 6, 7, 8 stage. They're not at the 9 stage where we can say that it's good to go to the market and scale up. I think there's a lot of opportunity and work that needs to be done between the utilities, between the industry, between the academia, to see that how some of these technologies, whether they are flow batteries, sodium batteries, manganese, aluminum, whole lot of them which are there, how do we really make them a success? And I think that's an area that we need to work. If today we need to come with viable and formidable and reliable solutions of clean energy. The second area that I think we need to work is to ensure that our supply has resilience. It's not only reliable, but it has N-1 and N-2. And how do we make it resilient? By providing a backup. Now, many countries have backup. Some of them have large hydros. Some of them have large quantity of gas, shale gas or any other gas which is available over there. So that's a great backup. For India, we don't have too many hydro. We don't have too much of gas also. So for us, we need to look at the third one, and I think nuclear technology has to play a very, very important role. Whether it is the nuclear fission technology or the nuclear fusion technology, those are areas that we need to work, and we need to work very quickly. There are large number of, again, technologies. We've heard about the SMR technology, the small modular reactors which are there. But I think we need to speed up in terms of how do we implement the technology, how do we ensure that it is safe and secure. It can be, in fact, distributed. The whole purpose of small modular reactors is that it can be distributed generation. It can be in different locations. And when we are talking of grids and being a smart grid, the flexibility that the grid will have will be phenomenal if we have many of these technologies which will provide us the resilience in the network to ensure that we are always in a position to supply energy to the consumers, considering the huge increase in consumption that is. The third area is the security of supply. And when I say security of supply for a country which has huge ambitious plans of adding nearly 300 gigawatt of clean energy in next 8 years. It's very, very important that we have security in terms of the supply chain. We need to ensure that we have better ability to source these materials, and that's where I think the technology will play a very, very important role, whether it is in terms of lithium, if there are other technologies which are there, other metals which are there, other chemistries which are there, we will be able to possibly come up with alternate solutions and not dependent on just single material. For similarly, in the solar, we are dependent on polysilicon technology, which is a very standard technology which has been there. But there are a whole lot of new technologies which are there. There are technologies on thin film, there are technologies on peroxides, there are technologies of using organic material for creating photovoltaics. So I think what is important for us is to work on multiple areas, and we just cannot be bogged down by one single solution which will be all and fit all. It will be a solution which will be different, it will work in different areas, needs to be customized, and needs to provide an opportunity whereby you are able to optimally utilize the energy based on your requirement. The last area, of course, is about consumption, and how do we provide the opportunity to the consumer to consume electricity in a much intelligent manner. And I think some of the newer technologies that is getting implemented will provide the user the opportunity and empower them to use energy in a more intelligent and sensible way. Some of the work that is being done by companies outside India are actually very good, and I think they can be path-breaking in terms of how we can implement it at a cost point with the consumers are able to pay. It cannot be some esoteric solutions which are very expensive and far and few people can use, but a solution which many people can use and are simple to utilize. So I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to move towards the new energy paradigm that we are talking about, and how do we move towards net zero is not a single step, but multiple steps in multiple directions. Lastly, I thought, let me also share with you that people come and say that in India, it's very difficult to change the utilities, and utilities have all sorts of problems and all that. And we run utilities. Tata Power runs the one of the utilities in Delhi, the northern part of Delhi, and we also run it in Mumbai. And every time people used to tell me that you run only in cities, in urban areas, you can never do it in the rural area and all that. But when COVID started, we had bid for some projects, not expecting that COVID will come so quickly. So COVID came, and we were under pressure in the eastern state of Odisha to take over a utility. There were 4 utilities which were there, and fortunately, we won all the 4, and we were asked to take over during the peak of COVID. So 1st June 2020, when COVID was at its peak, we were asked to take the central part of Odisha, which had nearly about 2.2 million customers, had an area of about 30,000 square kilometers. And over a period of time, we had to take all the 4, which had nearly 9 million customers in an area of 150,000 square kilometers, and covering some 80,000 villages. And everyone thought that this is a recipe for disaster. There's no way that you can do it. You go in the middle of COVID and try to make a change, and you will not be able to succeed. But we went over there because of our experience. In 71 days, we implemented the ERP. And the ERP means there was nothing over there. The computer system was not there. I remember the first time I visited their office. In the office, the files were on the racks on both sides. So not 2 people could walk together because there was not enough space. There was so much of paper over there. And in such a circumstances, how do you implement the ERP? We took nearly 4 months to implement the SAP ISU system. And then we implemented in first of the discoms, and then we implemented in all of them. And the huge turnaround that has happened, today we cover the whole of the state, the distribution network has improved, reliability has improved, customer service has improved. Offices where customer service was absolutely not known, there was virtually nothing like a customer service center. We have modified. I remember the first time I went to one of the customer service center, they had a wire mesh, and I think it was made about 27, 28 years back. The wire mesh was so dirty that the person sitting inside could not see outside, so you had to just put your hand inside with the bill and the payment, and someone will give you back a receipt for that along with the whatever balance change. So I think the whole transformation has happened, and it is possible. So what I want to share with all of you is technology can be implemented in places where it has never been implemented. No one knew what ERP system, no computerization was there. Computerization was only to punch a bill and get a printout of it, but not to use the intelligence. No SCADA system was there, no GIS was there, no billing software was there. Everything has been done, and that has been thanks to our technology partners who came and did it very quickly and customized it to the local requirements. So I think this is only one state. We have in India 28 states. Many of the states, what I am sharing is still there. You would still go over there. You will not be able to see who is inside, or the person from inside can see who is outside. There are also the network issues where you have more of the tree that you can see and the foliage you can see, then you can see the wire. So there is a great opportunity that is there, and in our push towards going for clean energy, going for green energy, I think many of the solutions that we will implement will require the support of all the partners who are here, all the companies who are here, who are participating. I'm sure you will participate in this journey to transform the way the country can change and move towards the clean energy solutions. So I'm looking forward to very exciting 3 days to interact with all of you. The exhibition is there to learn new things and how we can implement much of these solutions at a much faster pace. So thank you for your attention, and a great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Praveer Sinha, for sharing those very successful initiatives of the Tata Group with us. Sir, incidentally, I'm also from Odisha, and I can vouch for the very wonderful and excellent service, because I'm one of your, satisfied customers. So thank you very much. We will now move on to our next speaker, Mr. Richard Scumberg, President of RJ's Energy and he's also the EDF Fellow and IEC Ambassador for Smart Energy. And he will be taking us through the many decarbonization initiatives in Europe. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, ISGF, for having me. And I'm really, really happy to be here today after 2 years of almost metaverse-only life, which in the end turns out to be quite painful. So it is really this is really something that has to be mentioned, and I'm sharing this excitement with you. So I will speak with the perspective of the CEO and President of the International Electrical Commission based in Geneva, the Standard Development Organization that I'm representing here today. So the world challenges have never been so high, right? The energy demand is still climbing steeply, while we are still talking about curbing the greenhouse gas emissions. And I think it's now unquestionable that this has an effect on our everyday life. But it is not just about energy. And we should keep in mind that it is also the long-term sustainability of water, of air quality, of food, that should be universally ensured. And meanwhile, well, the customers and the citizens have growing expectations for resiliency, lower cost, new services, cyber-secured, respecting privacy, of course, while possibly monetizing their personal data. Well, India has major cards in hand. ISG President Reggie already has been highlighting a lot of puzzling facts and figures, but I would like to focus just on a few of them that are really striking me and I think that are pivotal. So by 2050, India is expected to have 1.66 billion inhabitants, even though already, as Reggie said, India is the most populous country in the world. Well, 1.66 billion. And India is the third largest energy-consuming country in the world already. But we'll see. They may actually climb up the ladder there. Well, while many economies continue to struggle post-COVID, India has been recognized to be one of the fastest growing economies of the world by global institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Well, the government's Atmanirbhar Bharat plan of 20 lakh crore, which is more than $300 billion, is turning the crisis into an opportunity and giving much impetus to the economic growth. So this is absolutely significant. And as the UN Secretary General said, clean energy is the ticket to growth and prosperity. India stands number 4 globally in renewable energy installed capacity. As of today, renewable energy sources, including large hydropower, have a combined installed capacity of about 175 gigawatts, right? But what is striking is that the potential is around 1,000 gigawatts. So there is a lot of room for increase, and this is where India is making right decisions, because India is also investing very rapidly in the development of the grid to be able to accommodate by 2030, which is just around the corner, accommodate up to 500 gigawatts of renewable energy, right? Connecting more mega solar park and mega wind farms. So this is quite smart, and of course this will require a lot of effort from the industry to actually beat the clock, where you need to come up quickly enough with the grid and the capability of integration so that you can keep actually increasing the share of this renewable and intermittent generation. And on top of that, the plan is accounting for about more than 50 gigawatt of electrical storage to cope with this intermittent generation. The Prime Minister initiative of forming the International Solar Alliance to fulfill the mission of the One Sun, One World, One Grid, the ISUW initiative, is extremely commendable and a major step forward in ultimately achieving a world global energy interconnection. And of course, generation and grid, they are a must, but we should not underestimate the demand side. It has been mentioned already in a previous address, but there is a lot of potential in the energy efficiency, demand-side management, controllable loads, electric vehicles, and transportation. And those can bring a very substantial contributions, but they need to be enabled by very strong smart metering deployments. And of course, now the energy choices that India considers will not only have a direct bearing on its growing population, but will also, in interconnected ways, affect the global energy market, carbon emissions, and the flow of technologies and the flow of capital. Technology is blazing forward. We had several examples given in the previous address. And this is where we think that standardization is more than ever a master key to take up the challenge. And IEC is fully committed to deliver enabling portfolio of technical standards. As a conclusion, all of this gives a lot of relevance to this 9th edition of the India Smart Utility Week. For the digital revolution, of course, India is already the software factory of the world. For energy, the ISGF is a very powerful asset, recognized worldwide, and it was one of the first to join the World Global Smart Energy Federation. ISGF is delivering very, very sharp and interesting publications, and they are organizing very effective connecting events. Please share with me the excitement of this unique opportunity to discover what others are doing and network and possibly trigger collaboration opportunities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Skomberg, for sharing those decarbonization initiatives in Europe. We will now move on to our next speaker. May I please invite Mr. Eddie Widiono, former president of PT, PLN, and founder chairman of PGCI from Indonesia, and he will be talking about the decarbonization initiatives perspective of his country.
Honorary officials, distinguished guests, fellow smart grid activists, allow me firstly to express my heartfelt thanks for the opportunity given to me for a short speech about the progress of energy transition in my country, Indonesia. To put my story in context with India Smart Utility Week, I shall start with comparison between India and Indonesia. As you know, India has a population of 1.4 billion people, while Indonesia has only 278 million people. The land, we have 1/3 of India. India has 3.3 million kilometers square. Indonesia has 1.9 million square. 60% of it are water, sea, different with India. Our annual emissions, India 2,277 million ton of CO2, as 2,000 million ton CO2. Our GDP comparison is in India 1.6 trillion US dollar, Indonesia is 1.24 trillion. So there are a lot of commonalities between India and Indonesia. And another commonalities is that common enabler of energy transition in both countries that enjoyed a steady economic growth. And I need to emphasize this because it will put a different color in our approach in energy transition. We know that India has been known worldwide to embark in aggressive energy transitions. I was mouth gasped when I first learned that India has set up a very ambitious goal of 100 gigawatt of renewables by 2020, while at that time Indonesia has only got less than 10,000 megawatt of renewables. But despite all these commonalities, we are not as high as India in climbing the stairs. India perhaps is already several rungs above us, while we are starting our first rung in climbing this. And one of the stark difference is the fact that Indonesia has been known as primary energy exporter. And this is the main stem to our economic growth. So in order not to shoot our own feet in pursuing the transition energy goals, we move more cautiously. We learn meticulously for what India has progressed so far and try to establish our own path in this. Several international agencies has provided their insight to government of Indonesia. Let's start with IEA, for instance. IEA has stated as a common statement with the government of Indonesia that net zero emission of the year 2060, which Indonesia has embarked, promised in the COP in 26, is indeed an ambitious but achievable target. And IEA recognized that energy efficiency and electrifications are the immediate priorities in Indonesia. In a near term only, a policy to push is needed to drive growth of renewables. There is a common understanding, no need for the new coal plants because the existing projects in the pipeline has already sufficient. Another international agencies are IRENA, and IRENA has stated that Indonesia demand growth of 3.3% annually. And they established two scenarios of growth. One of them is transforming energy scenario, TES. And the impact of TES is reduction of Indonesia demand growth from 3.3% to 2.7%, while the 1.5 degree Celsius scenarios will result in 2.4% of demand growth. This is something which probably has the direct consequences to our aim to achieve one of the countries out of 10 major global economies in 2045, 100 years after our independence. So the impact of energy transition towards achievement of economic growth has made my government a lot of headache to fulfill this promise in Paris Agreement 2015 and also at the COP26 in Glasgow last 2020. IRENA also recommend that to develop renewable energy market, which currently are absent in Indonesia. Indonesia has adopting a structure industry of regulated industry. So practically market price is determined by the government. And I think it's a bit a long way to develop a market, and we need to not only to think about plan, but also to convince our politicians that market is good for Indonesia. Another international agency are ADB. ADB has come and approached us with the program also called ETP, Energy Transition Plan, in which the retirement of coal plant will be incentivized. And ADB also proposed electricity sector restructuring, which consists of separation, generation from holding, consolidation of system planning, transmission, and system operation into a separate entities, and consolidation of generation procurement and single buyer. All of this has provided insight and also pressure to the government to go along the way to create their own roadmap. Let's see what the government said about this. The government of Indonesia stated that the emission target of 2030, which is 2,869 million ton emission equivalent, in the business as usual scenario, will be reduced into 1,195 million ton of CO2. That is already an enhanced of 915 million ton, because the business as usual scenario calls for 2,869 emission. Out of that, emission of energy sector, 656.3 in 2020, will be increased on a business as usual scenario to 1,009.5 MTOE, and we promise to reduce it to 681.6 million ton by 2030 and 129.4 by 2060, where we plan to achieve net zero emission. So practically what we said to the global community is that Indonesia will try so hard, but we cannot meet the target of 2030 as a peak of emission. We might need a little bit longer time to achieve that. And of course, by the end of 2060, we promise that we have net zero emission. So what is in the pipeline to achieve this? Let's start with what Reggie, my friend, has stated in his lecture yesterday. There are several items. I have here 13 points, which Reggie took as an energy transition strategy in India. And let's compare this with PLN. Solar PV, for instance, yes, we do have a solar PV program, 1.2 gigawatt up to 2030, and 4.8 gigawatt solar rooftop by 2030. Not much, no. But that's probably the right step, the right direction, towards the right direction. Our energy storage system, and now we are thinking about mainly developing a pumping storage system, because we do not yet believe that Indonesia can economically develop battery energy storage system, because the price are still expensive for us. Plan and redesign transmission. Yes, we did that. We have planned to build a super grid connecting islands of Indonesia, but we put a date attack of 2045 for them to be completed. Carbon market, we just started the carbon market in Indonesia. Regulation has been established to allow cap and trade mechanism to the power plant, and also to develop independent carbon market. Ancillary services, we haven't known that. It is not in our electricity regulation yet. Ancillary services is currently the expense of PLN. The demand response, PLN has launched a program so-called Beyond Kilowatt Hour Meters, and basically PLN has introduced several innovative way to communicate with the consumers through PLN Mobile, through various channels. I bring with me to guy from Icon Plus, the PLN subsidiary on IT and communication, which is currently working on developing platform for 1.2 million customers, which will be connected with smart meters within this year. The aim is to have 5 million customers by 2025, and you hear what Reggie says, we have around 75 million customers waiting for this smart meter. Smart microgrid, we has launched a program so-called de-dieselization, in which we convert 200 megawatt of small-size diesel plant located in 100 islands to become a green energy generation through a project which is currently under procurement. The other difference with India is PLN is embarking on implementation of carbon capture, utilization, and storage. Why? Because it's the fact that the main point, the main part of Indonesia, which create emission, is only nine locations. Some of them are in Java, especially West Java, and another is in East and South Kalimantan. So, and the location are the location of the emission are located nearby the gas field, which currently has been vacated. So it provides ideal storage facilities for carbon capture. I understand that the technology is still evolving, but hopefully we can be our first countries who implement this, considering that 60%, 70% of our generation fleet are now coal-fired person. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the progress that we have in Indonesia, and I come to the conclusion that this is a very good event for us to share with you, to learn from you, and at the end, I shall congratulate Indian Smart Grid Forum, especially to my old friend, Reggie, for the successful event of ISUW 2023. Let's hope the cooperation between us under the banner of Global Smart Energy Federation will flourish and resulting on multiple benefit for all of us. Let's not make zero emission to become net zero illusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eddie Vitiono, for sharing Indonesia's many green initiatives. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, would like to make a very humble request. As you know that we have several sessions planned throughout today, and because we also started slightly late, so due to paucity of time, if I may humbly request our esteemed speakers to kindly restrict their deliberations to 5 minutes or so. I would like to now invite Mr. Abel Tella, Director General, Association of Power Utilities of Africa, and he will give us the Africa perspective.
I would like to thank you and thank the India Smart Grid Forum for inviting me today. Our cooperation, like Reggie said, started in 2020, thanks to the visionary dynamism of my good friend Reggie Pillay. And we have been having a common program since there. And my last participation to this forum was virtual, so I'm very happy to be in present today. I came with my entourage from the General Secretariat, but also some utility CEOs are on the way because they have had some visa issue. We have Togo, Mali, Libya, and Guinea to join us today or tomorrow. Like Reddy said, our association has been created in 1970, We are 52-year-olds with 57 members in Africa, from Egypt to South Africa and from Cape Verde to Mauritius. In terms of activity, we are a specialized organization to the African Union Commission. And now, like you know, Africa reality is what we call a dilemma. Country with huge reserve and potential in energy, raw material are the less equipped in modern infrastructures of electricity. But the work that APOA put in place is to accompany the member not only to reach the last mile in electrification, but also to green the generation in Africa. And we have today many initiatives, starting by the country who have reached universal access, I mean the Northern Africa, are now in the program of a systematic replacement of all heater and solar heater. That is the case of Tunisia, and also all houses equipped with solar roof panel. The installed capacity of solar roof panel today in Tunisia is 10% of the installed capacity of the country. And on the solar energy, Morocco have today the largest concentrated panel plant, and in the mixed energy of Morocco today, we have 30% green energy, same as Senegal. And with the arena, we launched the green corridors, the eastern corridor and the western corridor, meaning that all installed capacity in Kenya for the last 10 years is based on only geothermal and hydropower. And wind energy, of course, Turkana Lake is one of the biggest ones. For the western corridor is composed by the Guinea Basin, where all the dams are being equipped to be able to generate more hydro-based energy, like base load, before to put more solar energy on the grid. In the meantime, all the landlocked countries, Niger, Mali, Guinea, are now equipped with hybrid solar panel to hybridization of all diesel plants that they have on the remote area. So that said, we also have, at the African Union level, the PIDA program is the Program of Infrastructure Development of Africa, where all the program of the PAP 1, the Priority Action Plan, were only renewable energy based, and the PAP 2 also are only renewable energy based for all countries of Africa. Saying that, like you know, South Africa and Egypt have reached the lowest solar scale prices, where Morocco have reached the lowest wind scale solar prices, wind scale scaling prices. So that gives us the possibility to say that having many fossil sources, Africa perspective is to reach universal access based on green energy. So the work to reach last mile is coupled with the possibility of equipping all installation with new capacity only in green energy. So this is the objective of Africa 56 program in terms of energy. The last conference of Dakar Financial Summit put it clear that the capacity of Africa to finance the oil infrastructure in energy is based on the political will of the government. The government have to put their resources in developing energy before the cooperation of DFIs and South-South cooperation of North-South cooperation. So this is the statement made by the head of state in Dakar. Finance the energy development based on decarbonization and decentralization of this electrification in Africa. So Africa also is particularly based on huge growth of the population. We are talking about 2 billion in 2050, with 50% youth living in town. So to power such economy, where we also need to power the industry, require very solid energy infrastructure development plan, and that is where we are committed. And APOA is supporting all its members and government to reach not only universal access, but to have business beyond Africa. For that, in June 2021, the chairperson of the African Union Commission have launched the single electricity market concept, where we, as coordinator of different regional power pool, are working to the integration of all regional market in one unified market, where the base energy should be first hydro, gas for base load, and all renewable energy available in Africa to have a stable energy mix and to be able not only to give light to African population, but to power the industry in Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Abel Teller, for giving us the African perspective. We will now move on to our next speaker. May I now invite Mr. Helvio Neves, Director, Brazilian Electricity Regulatory Agency, Anil, and he will take us through the various decarbonization initiatives in Latin America. Over to you.
Good morning for everyone, and thanks for the India Smart Forum. And I am very glad to participate in this event. I am absolutely happy, in fact, which main purpose is to enable us to discuss about a challenging topic which presents good perspectives for the near future. At the same time, is absolutely actual and has occupied a prominent and important role in government and regulatory policies in several countries. We are talking about the challenges to promote decarbonization. The world has faced countless challenges, but none of them surpass in intensity the quest for decarbonization. To achieve the goal so desired by all of us, it's necessary to face a cultural patterns of behavior, an equal distribution of natural resources, economic inequalities, in addition to the technological challenge and the energy transition. For Latin America, to adopt actions focused on more sustainable environment is a very challenging commitment as the countries seek to develop decarbonization initiatives. At the same time, they face challenges to finance these actions. Nowadays, regarding emissions, Latin America represents only 5% of them when compared to the levels around the world, according to the Latin American Energy Organization. The number itself shows that the region has little contributed to total greenhouse gas emission. Even so, Latin American countries have been adopting special actions that contribute to the energy transition. As an example, I can highlight their efforts to improve their energy matrices with renewable sources, having Brazil, Mexico, and Chile occupied a great position among the 20 countries that have most invested in the grid in this regard. For example, Brazil today has more than 87% of renewables in our matrix, electrical matrix, and more than 45% in our energy matrix. As a consequence, an increase of the renewable sources of electricity generation, having the wind power being more developed in Brazil, Uruguay, Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia, while the solar photovoltaic power has been more developed in Chile, Colombia, and Brazil. In terms of wind power plants, Brazil has today around 22 gigawatts installed. It represents around 12% of our electrical matrix. And in terms of photovoltaic, Brazil has today, just in distributed generation, we have 18 gigawatts installed and increasing quickly. We are expecting around 45 gigawatts installed in the next years, 2 or 3 years. For the future, the forecast is that the percentage of participation of renewables in the generation of electric energy will increase even more, exceeding its current representativeness of 60%. As a result, we expect to have a greater diversification of the share of renewable sources in Latin America. In addition, some countries have been studying ways to use green hydrogen, which can contribute to reducing polluting gases. Brazil, Colombia, Chile, and Uruguay is in this way. Last January, Brazil installed the first plant to generate or to produce hydrogen, the green hydrogen. And they have also invested in the storage and electric vehicles, which are crucial initiatives for the decarbonization process. As I said, I think this event is an excellent opportunity to experience exchanges and strengthening of cooperation. Therefore, what I would like to see being debated is what actions have been successfully developed by other countries and how they could be transferred to others, considering existing differences, whether resulting from socio-economic inequalities or technological differences. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Gura. We will now move to our next speaker. We have with us Mr. Robert Dender, Global CEO from Regulators, and he will be talking to us about the various initiatives in INEL.
Thank you for the invitation to be here. It's a pleasure. And let me quickly comment with you. I think we've heard already before from the previous speakers the main challenges that we see not only here in India but all over the world. So first about Gridspertise. Gridspertise is a spin-off that comes from Enel, the global utility with headquarters in Italy, but also present here in India, of course. And what we do in the spin-off Gridspertise, we do the digitalization effort. So we design, develop, and offer the technologies, hardware, software, services to power grid operators in order to accelerate the digitalization. So if you can please forward with the slides. I have just some background slides here to stimulate a little bit the discussion. So on the next slide, you can see basically what is the future customer look like. And I think this fits quite well with what you also discussed before. So here we speak about, of course, a customer that generates power as well at home, maybe, and uses electricity basically for everything, for heating, for cooling, for transport, electrical vehicles, electric cars. And also, as already mentioned previously, this, of course, puts a lot of stress in the network because the power flows are bidirectional. They change every hour of the day. They change every day. And they are bidirectional. And of course, the grids themselves need to cope with that. So there's the customer that has a new role, a customer that has a different usage of electricity. There's the huge growth of electricity that also has been mentioned before here in India. No double-digit growth, that's really exceptional and brings a huge burden as well at the same time to the grid operators. And at the same time, there's another effect that we should not forget. The customers are digital already. So the consumers are digital. No? The consumers at the end, they use the smartphone for everything. They are used to an instant reply to any request. So you don't wait anymore, no, as a consumer for anything. And why should you wait for certain requests that you do to a power company? Why should you wait to also to have a place in this energy market as well? So this is something that we observe everywhere in the world. So if we go please ahead to the next image, just as what you see here, what is happening, of course, here you see the industrial customers as well. And so it's not just the home, and the industry is already ahead. The industry already, puts a lot of rooftop solar, local generation, all types of generation, a lot of usage of electricity. And here there's another point, of course, the availability of electricity is crucial. Here it's not just about, let's say, to be connected to the grid, it's also to have availability basically of 100% of the time. And this is very crucial. And this is a challenge, again, in this very changing world. So please, next slide. So the grids, at the end of the power grids, are not ready for that if you think about it. No, the grids have been built over the last 100 years in a specific way that was really from centralized generation, transport, distribution to the endpoints, and now the picture changes. And so what can we do? We need to accelerate here, and you can do, and of course we need to do, and you are doing this here in India as well, to extend the grids, to work and reinforce the grids. There's no doubt about it. There will be over 600 billion of annual investments every year going to the grids, to the power grids. And this is really something that also at the NL Group we have been seeing over the last 2 decades in reality. And what we also see, what we've seen, is that through digitalization, you can make a much more intelligent usage of those investments. Because you reinforce the grids, you still need to do this, you cannot live without this, but instead of, let's say, just putting cables, transformers, and hard technologies, through soft technologies, through monitoring, control, real-time management solutions, you actually squeeze out of those existing grids a lot of performance still. You optimize the grids, you optimize the reliability of the grids, you optimize the power flows. And here the vision really is from a static grid that has been constructed and built a long time ago and is being still built in a certain way. Let's say we will move to a dynamic grid that actually will change over time, and at some point even change during the day according to the needs of that day. And this is really where we are going to. And this is something we see in all the geographies all over the world. And how this can be done, please, next slide. This is, of course, needs different technologies to be implemented. And I think you already have here in India a first, can you please go to the next slide? You have already in India here a great rollout in place for smart metering, for example. This is really AMI. This is a base, and also I think here the smart grid initiative in India, I think they really stimulated this really greatly in the past already, and this is a huge rollout and absolutely needed, because you need to have the information of the customers, and it's not just about efficiency, it's really the basis for a full segmentarial change. But not only that, it actually allows you as a grid operator and those who have implemented that, the smart metering in a mass way. NL, for example, is operating today 45 million smart meters. And what has been seen through the first generation, second generation, third generation of technology, what you add at the end is a lot of real-time information that you get from the very last point of the electricity grids. And you use that not only for the consumer information, you use that also for the grid management, to make the grids more reliable, to have information to do better grid planning and better grid operation. And you relate that information actually with the other solutions that you have for grid digitalization. So really the other piece of the smart grid, you see it in the middle here, is really to put intelligence in the grid. Digital components in the distribution grid right next to the transformer that monitor, measure, sensor, see what is happening in real time, and actually control and automate, let's say, what is happening and how the grids are configured also in real time with intelligence that you put locally inside. And this is really the future here at Gridspertise. We have new solutions for that, quantum edge device, and we also, let's say, think that these type of solutions are also very important in the future here in India, because they really help you to squeeze out of those traditionally built networks the most and get, let's say, also new ways of reconfiguring and monitoring the grid. And then there's a third dimension we should not forget, and this is really the digitalization of all the processes of a utility company, because it's not just the end point of the grid, the management of the grid, but it's actually also the information that you can provide to your field workers, to the contractors that are out there, the people that actually speak to the consumers are in the field, and of course having a digital information, a digital twin of the actual situation of what is going on in the field. This information is very valuable to also give optimized service and also, of course, improve things like the safety of the workers and motivation of the workers. So it's really a talent shift as well, the usage of digital technologies within the utility companies. So that is what NL has been doing for the last 20 years, is still doing. At Gridspertise, we do this for NL, we do this for other companies, and also here in India. And I think this is really the challenge. It's a global challenge, and it can only be done, some of the speakers before said it, doing it jointly. It needs to be done by technology companies, by the utilities, by the regulator with the right mindset, by the governmental institutions, by the financial institutions, And it's a mindset by the universities as well, no? And the training and everything that belongs to that. So it's a big challenge. I really believe here India is on a great path, and really good luck with this. And I'm also very happy to join that path here with through Gridexpertise also in India. And I really believe this sectorial change is only possible through this joint forces and acceleration through digital technologies. So thank you so much and for being here, and I wish you a good event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robert Denda, for giving us a very in-depth understanding of NL's initiatives in the past 2 decades. Our last but not least speaker is Mr. Luciano Martini, Chair Executive Committee of ISGAN, and he will speak to us about the decarbonization initiatives in the ISGAN member states. Over to you.
Good morning, almost good afternoon, everyone. So I'm very pleased to be here with you, and I would like to thank Dr. Reggie Kumar Pillai for this kind invitation, and Rina Suri as ex-director of India Smart Grid Forum. It's a pleasure to be here, especially because I know India Smart Utility Week is from the past. I attended the past event. Unfortunately, the last 2 events were just remotely organized. Nevertheless, they were still very interesting, very important to attend. I know the level, I know the quality of the contribution of a different session, so I'm very eager to listen to all the contribution from all members. I'm here representing ISGAN. ISGAN is the international platform with 27 members spanning 5 continents. So we have a nice forum where we can exchange views, we can exchange information and best practices, experiences, how to decarbonize, how to modernize our system. I think this is of primary importance because it seems strange, but we are facing the same challenges everywhere in the world. What is different maybe is the solution that need to be implemented, because each country has its own specificity in type of grid and the type of customer, anything is change. But the challenges we are facing the same. That is why we need to cooperate, we need to work together. I want to tell you that we talk about net zero, we talk about decarbonizing our economies, but we have also to think about how to empower people. So I think I'm glad to say that the last ISGAN Award has 2 different themes. One was on smart grid electromobility, but the other one was on a typical topic that is related to social aspect. So I'm glad to say that Rina Suri was awarded for the ISGAN Award related to an inclusive, a just transition, empowering people. So this is part of the story. It's not just making new technology on board, but as Robert was telling us, we have customer at the center. We have the need for making customer changing their behavior and making this transition possible. It's important to say that we as ISGAN talk about technology, talk about market, we discuss, we make a report, technical report, thematic topic, white papers, and this is available on our website. It's fully available for collaboration. As ISGAN collaborate with many other initiatives, we are pleased to say that we have a strong and a long track record of collaboration with the Global Smart Energy Federation, with REGI. We have an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, to establish even stronger collaboration in the present time and the future. In this case, we really look to partners where we can really team up, because the challenges we are facing are huge, so it's better to be very well prepared. GSEF is our companion in several occasions. I know that we are always speaking at our executive committee meeting, presenting the view from the customer, from the industry, from the utility. This is, I think, is very important. And the documents from GSEF are always important and relevant for our activity. What else? The transition is here. It will take some time. Some countries set decarbonization net zero by 2050, some other 2060, some other 2070. But as Reggie said at the very beginning, the power system should be ready before that we reach that level, because we need to make a full electrification of end uses. I'm thinking about transportation. I'm thinking about heating and cooling. So all of these need to be power. Apart from having ubiquitous charging point for our cars. So in Europe, the situation is quite healthy. We are improving the situation. We are advancing. We said that by 2050 we will be net zero, but the road is quite bumpy, it's quite difficult. That's why we need to cooperate with many. What to say? I'm looking forward to this very interesting conference. I know that this afternoon we will have some important session, as the same will happen tomorrow. I will be eager to collaborate and talk with many of the participants and looking forward to a very interesting session today and tomorrow. Thank you very much to all of you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mr. Luciano Martini, for sharing that with us. I think all our speakers really deserve a big round of applause for sharing their time and expertise with us. I'd like to now invite Ms. Reena Suri, Executive Director of ISGF, requesting her to kindly propose a vote of thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning, good afternoon now to all of you. It's an honor and privilege for me to extend this vote of thanks to the respected dignitaries and distinguished speakers and esteemed delegates and invited guests and experts who have joined us today from all our supporting ministries, government institutions, partners, exhibitors, and the media and utilities for joining us today for the 9th edition of India Smart Utility Week. Energy sector is going through a huge transformation and rather a revolution. And this revolution is happening because of many factors. Electrification has emerged as the key solution for decarbonization of most sectors of the economy, and that is making the sector grow many-fold in coming decades, and at the same time decarbonize the electricity sector itself. And this is a huge challenge which is opening up unprecedented opportunities for the invention, innovation, and collaboration across sectors and nations. In the sessions that would follow in the next 3 days of India Smart Utility Week, our eminent experts who have joined us, the speakers, they will discuss about how with digitalization, decarbonization, and decentralization in the energy sector is changing the smart grid ecosystem and making the grids complex by integrating distributed generation, electric vehicles, and several other grid interactive loads together. We are truly grateful to the respected dignitaries who have shared their thoughts in the decarbonization initiatives in their countries and organizations in the opening keynotes today. It indeed was inspiring to listen from all of you and a great learning experience for all of us. We are very thankful to all our dignitaries for gracing this occasion today and also joining us to inaugurate the conference, and will be followed by inauguration of the exhibition in the exhibition area, which is just outside round the corner. We wish to take this opportunity to express our sincere gratitude for your time today and your constant support to India Smart Grid Forum, and particularly, for joining us today, for your participation, taking your time out today. May I start by thanking Mr. N. Venu, Mr. Praveer Sinha, Mr. Richard Schomburg, Mr. Eddie Vidiono, Mr. Abel Tella, Mr. Helvio Guerra, and Mr. Robert Denda, and Mr. Luciano Martini. So thank you so much for joining the inaugural ceremony of India Smart Utility Week. Please put your hands together for all our dignitaries here. So in the coming days, we will have our speakers, experts join us to talk about the new technologies, interventions that are available to better manage the power systems, supporting the digitalization of systems, including the solutions for grid edge automation, talking about cyber security, cloud computing, AI, ML, VR, metaverse, and many more. As part of this edition of India Smart Utility Week 2023, we will hear from our experts from not only in India, but around the world who have joined us to share their experience, their expertise in the various plenaries, thematic sessions, workshops, and roundtables that have been organized as part of this event. And we take this opportunity to thank all our esteemed speakers who have come from around the world and the delegates for accepting our invitation to participate here and in the conference, and which is starting today post lunch and will go on till 3rd of March in the evening, and will be followed by a gala dinner and announcement of the ISGF Innovation Awards. So ISUW has come a long way. This is the 9th edition of India Smart Utility Week, and it has become a global signature event of smart grids and smart mobility space. And this would not have been possible without the constant support from all our partners for our supporting ministries, partner utilities, supporting organizations, the industry partners, and media partners. So we once again take this opportunity to thank all our partners, all our dignitaries, exhibitors, delegates who have joined us today for the 9th edition of ISUW. And a big thank you once again to all our dignitaries for joining us for the inaugural ceremony. And I wish, a very insightful and successful deliberations for all the sessions that we have planned. I hope you'll all enjoy the sessions and make the most of it. So thank you once again, and we look forward to interacting more during the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Suri, for that very warm vote of thanks. And may I now invite all our speakers of the inaugural session to please join us on stage for a photo op. May I also request Mr. Pillai and Ms. Suri to please join us along with them.